Hey everyone, Bryan here from Xact IT Solutions. Thank you for joining us today. And before we get into today's content, which is going to be talking about Internet of Things devices or IoT devices and what challenges they bring from a cybersecurity standpoint, I want to remind everyone that we do not get paid for this channel. We do not charge a fee for the content. All we ask is that you hit the like button down below if you are enlightened, or if you learn anything, or your perspectives change, or you're just entertained in any way by our content. Hit the like button, and if you're so inclined, share out our content, share it to your friends and family, let them know that this channel exists. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and don't forget all our subscribers through the month of October. If you're signed up or if you're subscribed on October 31st, we're going to take that list of names. We're going to draw a random lucky winner for a $200 Amazon gift card that we will award on November 1st to anybody subscribed to our channel as of October 31st who's 18 years of age and lives in the United States of America. So, with that being said, let's move into our content. I wanted to talk to you today about IoT devices or Internet of Things devices. So let's think of these things as all the devices that we have in our home that are not a computer or a tablet that run an operating system. So let's think about tablets have an operating system, iOS or Android. Phones are the same way, and computers. Really, we're not really talking about those devices when we talk about Internet of Things devices or IoT devices. What we are talking about is TVs, coffee makers, your kids' toys, light switches, light bulbs, fire alarms, door locks, cameras, all these things that we plug into our home internet or our office internet to make our life easier. The biggest difference between these things is, let's take a look at Microsoft. A lot of people use Windows and they know that Windows 7 is end of life. Windows 7 end of life is well publicized. Microsoft lets everyone know that your operating system is no longer going to be supported. It's no longer going to receive updates. And their recommendation is always move to the latest operating system. In the case of Windows 7, it was moved to Windows 10. So the reason Microsoft does that is because it's a business decision that they can't support old things forever. So at some point, they pick a date, they call it a cutoff date, and when that date comes, that operating system or that software no longer receives updates from the manufacturer. The same thing happens with Internet of Things devices, except they're not well publicized. A lot of people don't know that the TV they bought 5 years ago, the Vizio or Samsung TV that they bought, is no longer receiving updates or firmware updates to the television. The TV manufacturer doesn't blast on the screen, hey, your TV is no longer receiving updates, it's time to go get a new TV. I think that would make a lot of people freak out because, people spend a lot of money on TVs, and I don't think a lot of people want to spend, a few $1,000s every few years because their TV is no longer receiving updates. But this is becoming more of an issue for people because more apps, more things are being put on these TVs. They're becoming smarter. And if we don't maintain the software that runs them, then we leave ourselves exposed to vulnerabilities that hackers can take control of. So what are some things we can do knowing that we might have these devices on our network that have these vulnerabilities because they're not being updated by the manufacturer? Some of the things that we can do are things like password resets. Password resets or changing our password and not using the same password across multiple devices and across multiple accounts is something that I talk about a lot on this channel. Using things like password managers and not reusing the same password is something I highlight constantly. And it's a very good security practice to put in place for your IoT devices. Don't use the same password that you use for your Ring camera system that you use for your Samsung TV. It's a really bad move, because if a hacker can penetrate or get into your Samsung account and you're using the same password, there's nothing stopping him from going over to your Ring account and logging into your Ring account and using the same password to do so. So you can play a part in this whole problem with IoT devices by not reusing the same password on all of these accounts, and use a unique different password on all these different sites and devices that you use. So you're making it a lot more difficult for a hacker to then go across your network through many devices. And not only that, if you're using a VPN to dial into your corporate network or your work network, they can also try to use that password or a variation of that password to break in to your company's network, and you don't want to be the cause of that. So very good idea to use password devices. And I didn't mention it earlier, always check to see if your devices, your IoT devices, have an update. Make sure that they are up to date. Log into them every so often and go to the status page or go to the about page and see if there's an option to update the firmware. Some manufacturers make their devices really easy to update with a click of a button. Some don't. Some you have to go through a process of downloading what's known as a firmware update and then applying it to the device, and it's a little bit more difficult. And a lot of people won't go through that process just because it is too difficult and people don't have the time and they don't see the importance of doing so. So don't use the same password. That's the best advice I can give you on this. So you can also do things like understand that there is a treasure trove of information on the dark web that contain more than just passwords. So if your password gets compromised and ends up on the dark web, that's one thing, but there's this whole other issue where personally identifiable information, sensitive company information, and IoT devices and the manufacturers are constantly adding to this treasure trove that's on the dark web. Fitbit has been hacked. Ring has been hacked. There's been a slew of pet and baby monitors that have been hacked. The toys that your kids use that connect to the internet have been hacked. Coffee makers have been hacked. Solar panels have been hacked. Hackers are using and abusing smart vacuums and cameras in the home for monitoring purposes. Digital home assistants like your Google and your Alexa, they can all be compromised and hacked by criminals, and they are all in your home and they're all connected to your network. So adding to the dark web treasure trove is a major problem for these IoT companies, and then they're using that information to collect it and identify targets, and using that information to go after people with emails and phishing attempts. So if Ring gets hacked, or a partner of Ring gets hacked, like the Ring hack that happened in January, if somebody's able to get their hands on that and they know that this information came from Ring, then they can start sending you emails that look like they're coming from Ring saying, hey, you need to give us your password, or you need to reset your password. And then you're giving it to the hacker and not really Ring, because the hacker is the one in control of the web page that he sent you to through his phishing email that looked like it came from Ring. So, one of the other things that we have to worry about is these IoT devices are ever growing. They are about 60% of the attacks that are happening out there right now, that hackers are able to take control of the devices, or they are using information from the companies that make these. When they get hacked, they're using that information to exploit the customers of those devices. One of the other things, and the most important thing other than not reusing the same password, is if you own a business or you're in a business and you're responsible for the network of that business, the best thing you can do is make sure that these IoT devices are on completely separate networks from your main network. You should have a guest network, or you should have a segregated network where you're plugging things like TVs and voice over IP phones and Alexa and Google Home devices, thermostats, anything in your home or office that's connected to the internet should be separated from the main network. In the event that that device does have an issue, it is compromised, then you have at least a method of keeping them physically separated from the main network where all the good information is that a hacker could get to, that he could encrypt or steal from your business and then hold it for ransom. So I hope this video was quick and enlightened you on IoT and the threat that IoT is. Remember the important things here. Make sure you're checking your IoT devices. Make sure that they are up to date and you're updating them regularly. If they do happen to fall out of support with the manufacturer, consider replacing that device. And if you're using any of these devices, make sure you're keeping them on a segregated network from within your own organization, and use firewall tools and VPN tools to make sure that any traffic coming from these devices for your people working from home, make sure that you have a way of filtering out that traffic so other devices on the home network cannot penetrate through to the corporate network. So please consider liking this video if you learned anything here today, if you were enlightened in any way. Again, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out with Google, and you'll get entered in to win that $200 Amazon gift card. And I will see you all later. I am out of here for today, and I hope you all have a great day as well.